There's spoilers ahead. You should probably know that by now. And we're good. Okay, so I am sitting here with Ash, or Amity, or Millennia, or Emma. What's your name right now?
It's Ashlyn.
Ashlyn? Okay. What's it gonna be next week?
I have no idea.
Okay, that's fair. Um, it's been, I don't know, it's been about maybe 5, 6 months since our last interview, something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah. In that time, Dawn Trail's been out. I assume you've went all the way through that, right?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. Yeah. What you been doing since the last time we talked besides that?
I was leveling all of my jobs to 100.
Got all that done?
Yes, finally. Well, minus the crafter.
Yeah. Yeah.
But other than that, yeah, all the combat jobs are at level 1.
Okay. That's pretty good. You're ahead of me as far as that goes. I've got a lot of the crafters done, but that was just from leave turn-ins because I'm lazy about it. And then
Yeah, that's what I did.
yeah, that's the only way to do it really, unless you want to go insane. But I've got a few of the combat. My favorite combat ones are up. The rest of them have not been touched hardly. When we talked last time, you mentioned that your favorite job to play when it was still just Endwalker was Sage. Is it still Sage with the Dawn Trail updates?
No,
No.
I actually haven't played too much like healer role in Dawn Trail. Mostly I've just been playing Gunbreaker and defaulting back to Summoner.
Okay. Okay. Any
But
particular reason?
Summoner, I like Summoner because I can just shut my brain off.
Yeah.
Like, it's easy to play. I like it. I think it's fun. But Gunbreaker, I loved Gunbreaker with like the changes they made in Dawn Trail and like the new skills. I was
Yeah.
like, holy, this is so fun.
It's good. Yeah, Gunbreaker is one of the ones that I've got leveled all the way up, and I'm glad that I did. It is a lot of fun now. They did honestly they did pretty good with most of the tanks in Dawn Trail. I've
Except one of them.
Which one?
Dark Knight.
I knew you were gonna say it. I knew you were gonna say it. Dark Knight gets to shaft a lot. They do. They did at least recently make that change where a lot of the skills that used to only give you magic resistance actually give you a little bit of physical resistance now too. I mean, that's nice at least. It's still not the same. Like, it's still not as good as the rest of them. But
they just need to fix the 1-2-3 combo.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it's like you go into a fight and it's like huge burst. 1, 2, 3. 1. And I'm like,
yeah, and it still doesn't have the same amount of survivability as most of the other tanks either.
yeah.
The self healing is not anywhere close to warrior or even paladin as far as that goes. It's still a little rough. Yeah, we've been getting shaft for a while. As a Dark Knight lover, like, I can admit we haven't we haven't been nearly as good as we were in Shadowbringers for quite a while now. So
I felt like that's what Paladin was like in Endwalker, because they did like that small rework to Paladin, and then it feels really good in Dawn Trail.
Oh yeah,
Paladin feels great, but I remember there was a point where I was just like, I can't play this job. Like, even though I was a Paladin main from A Realm Reborn all the way up into Shadowbringer.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
But yeah, they changed it. I like a lot of the jobs. There are like a couple of jobs that aren't for me, but for the most part, I was impressed by some of it, like the new change.
Yeah. Yeah. Overall, with Dawn Trail, since you've been through it, what do you think about the expansion as a whole?
Hot take, but I loved it.
Really?
I am a Dawn Trail enjoyer.
Okay.
I loved the fact that kinda did, but kinda didn't, like, it's like, "Oh, we go through all these trials and tribulations, and
Yeah.
then, oh my god, it's the end of the world," and then it's like, anime style, we go in and we fight the big baddie and everything's all happy and good.
Right.
But this was nice to, like, take a step back and, like, not particularly be in that role. If I were to, like, call this expansion anything, I would call it, like, the vacation.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely feels like that. They did nail that. There's a lot of really nice looking locales in Dawn Trail. I will say that. There's a lot of very nice looking spots. The big emphasis they placed on some of the foods, it does make it seem more like, kind of like you're being a tourist in the area. Just
Yeah.
trying local food, learning about local culture and customs and stuff like that. I can get that. Um, the So for me, at least, like I have what I feel like is a pretty standard take on the expansion as a whole. I didn't care for the story as much, especially from like level 90 to I want to say like 95 or 96. Then the big event happens, and then I got interested, and then I kind of stayed interested at that point up until the end. But it took a really
Yeah.
long time for me to get invested. And there were still a few parts in between there where it was like, I'm not really sure about this part right here or something like that. But I will say that the gameplay, as far as like the dungeons and the trials and the raids and all that, this has been my favorite gameplay that I've seen in the game, like the whole time.
Yeah, like, when I think about it coming back, like, from, like, A Realm Reborn and
Oh
stuff, and
yeah.
then, like, all the changes, like,
Oh
to the
yeah.
dungeons and trials and stuff, like, there's so much going on, and it's just enough to, like, push you, but not be, like, overwhelming.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, after playing the game for so long, you kind of pick up on mechanics, and so
Hmm.
a lot of, dungeons and trials and things, the first thing it starts off with is an AoE.
Oh yeah.
Like, that's like the standard, but in
Yeah.
Dawn Trail, a lot of the fights don't start with an AoE.
Um, I don't know if you've. It's only recently been uploaded, so you probably haven't had a chance to look at it yet. But during my interview with Asuka, my second one that we just did, the best example that we kind of threw out there was for what's the dungeon? I think it's like Vanguard. I think it's the second boss in Vanguard that throws up the kind of laser walls you have to avoid as you're also avoiding mechanics that are constantly targeting you, and like there's turning mechanics and stuff.
Yeah.
That's the best example I can think of for like them really upping the gameplay on these bosses, because that is a non-stop hectic, always watching what you're doing. Like, it's hard, but it's not impossible. It's not gonna be like, it's not ultimate difficulty, but
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
difficult and it's challenging, and it actually keeps you awake. You can't just like phase out and space out and be like, well, I'm just gonna go on autopilot for this. Like,
Unlike me, who,
yeah.
when I was leveling all my jobs, was constantly getting, like, Dusk Vigil, like, level 50 over and over again. I even
Yeah,
was doing roulettes with a friend today, and I got Dusk Vigil, and I was like, "I cannot escape this."
it's so hard now, with having like actual good dungeons and trials to choose from, and then you go into a roulette and it's like, here's your level 50 A Realm Reborn dungeon, here's your level 60 Heavensward dungeon, here's Crystal Tower again. um
I don't mind
it's
Crystal Tower. I don't mind.
As a whole, I don't mind Crystal Tower. I would like it more if a few of the mechanics actually got seen. uh,
Yeah, true,
yeah.
true, and, like, Circus Tower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I miss
I
the
still
mechanics.
I still want to get a group together and do Circus Tower minimum eye level.
That would be great.
Just just so I could show people, like, "Back in my day."
Right. That would be great. I would be down for that. I would love to see that. I kind of It's kind of what has me interested in that, what they call it, the Chaotic Alliance raid, or
Yeah,
whatever
the
it is.
Chaotic Alliance, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know anything about it, but from what I've heard, it's that you're just fighting the Cloud War.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it would be cool if it was like a whole new like
Yeah, I wanted it to
if
be
you
a whole
went through
thing.
like all. At least that's what I know. I could be wrong.
I was hoping it would be like a whole thing, because that's what I wanted. I just wanted to have like the Alliance raid of Crystal Tower, but actually have all the mechanics. Um, but yeah, if you can ever get a minimum eye level run going of one of those Crystal Tower raids, I'd be down for that. You can just count me in whenever.
Maybe we could
Um,
make like an FC event where like we all go in and just have like one person DPS. Well, maybe not
just
one.
sandbag the whole raid for everybody
We,
else.
just so people can see the mechanic.
That'd be really funny, and I would do that. Uh,
The slow run.
other people would be so mad in the other alliances, but I would think it would be hilarious. So I'm down for that. I could do that.
Yeah, that'd be
Uh,
pretty fun.
I already troll the alliance raids sometimes with Crystal Tower by putting up the wrong markers for people because I think it's funny that they don't pay attention.
Oh my
So,
god.
so they get
I
split into
have
3 lanes, and I spell out CAB instead of ABC, and
I
they
I
get
have
confused.
I have a clip
Yeah.
of that part with the 3 lanes,
Mm-hmm.
and some person just was like, I don't know if it was a tank or who it was, but they just like bolted in. They
Mm-hmm.
were like, I'm going for it.
Yep.
And everybody got pulled into the A lane.
Oh yeah.
And like, if you can't DPS fast enough, there's actually like a mini enrage.
Mm-hmm.
And so like most of the alliance was in the A lane, and then the big dude comes out with a sword and just one shots everybody, and
Yep.
it's great because you just hear the sound of everybody getting hit, and it's like,
Yep. I have seen
and
that
I,
happen for that same reason, where everybody just ends up in A lane, and then there's not enough people to deal with it.
that was like one of the funniest things that I've ever seen happen, because that was like well, maybe like 2 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've caused that to happen with my messing around with the markers because that's how I entertain myself. When I get that at this point, because it's really easy to counter. Like you just go to the lane you know you're supposed to go to, but people just follow the markers. They don't think. So you get half the people that are trying to do it the right way, and then half the people that are just following the markers, and then everybody ends up in the wrong lane, and they're very confused. And they're all like talking about it in the alliance chat, wondering what's going on. And then I do it again later for the final fight, where they have to go back to bring up the shield and go to their positions.
uh oh my god. It's such a troll.
I know. I have them
But the,
saved. I don't have hardly any markers for any fights saved. I have 2 markers saved for that single raid.
that's pretty amazing, though. I would love to see how chaotic that would be.
Oh, it's hilarious to me. Shun used to get mad at me for doing it, but I think it's funny because they don't have to follow the markers. Like they're just markers. They can go wherever they want to, but they do. At least half the people follow them every time.
Every time.
Every time. They don't even think about it.
Imagine if you could change markers mid-fight.
Oh, oh, that would be. I would not be able to be trusted with that power. I would only use that power for evil.
Just for evil.
Yeah, only for evil. I would not. I would not be able to be trusted with that.
The poor sprouts.
Yeah, the poor sprouts. If I see a bunch of sprouts in the alliance raid and I see like we start this and it's got like 5 people watching a cutscene, I don't do it. Like I'm not gonna make their first run be something that intimidates them. I only do this when like we don't have people viewing cutscenes. People should know better, and they don't.
Yeah,
So I'm evil, but I'm not that evil.
not that evil.
Not that evil, not yet. Oh, apparently I have a phone call. Hold on, let me pause this real fast. Okay, we're back. I had to take a phone call unexpectedly. But yeah, so I don't troll the alliance raids with new people in there. I just do it with the experienced people that should know better. But it's funny. I highly recommend it. And no, I
That is
cannot.
pretty funny.
And no, I could not be trusted if you could just switch the markers around mid-fight. That would be awful. It'd be very handy for people that use it properly, but I wouldn't be one of those people. So, um, speaking of things needing markers and stuff, the new Ultimate's out now, right?
It is. I've been watching people prog it.
You gonna be attempting that?
Well, I haven't cleared Savage this tier, so probably
Okay. Okay. Looking for it sometime in the future, or just not really something you're interested in anymore?
I think if I were to do an ultimate, I still haven't done an ultimate yet. But I think if I would do one, I would start with UCOB. And then
Okay.
I don't know. DSR looks pretty fun.
I figured
But
maybe like Chin would have drug you into an ultimate at some point.
we made plans to do UCOB, but it never happened. So I'm still waiting for that. But
Gotcha.
she did drag me into Uwu one time.
Yeah.
It was like one day I was filling for somebody and I had no idea what was going. That was like one of my first ultimate experiences.
Yeah. That's pretty standard, I feel. Ubu is the only one that I've ever actually taken a serious attempt at. Or else I say serious. Semi-serious. We met like once a week for maybe 3 hours to do it. That only lasted for about a month or so. And we obviously did not clear, because I do not have an ultimate weapon. It was, honestly, it was more fun than I thought it would be. And surprisingly more relaxed than I thought it would be. You kind of, well, I don't know if you've had this experience or not, but I kind of got it in my head that party finding for groups and stuff would be kind of a nightmare because of the people that would join being kind of like hard to deal with. But we started off maybe having like 4 or 5 people of our own and just had to use Party Finder for the rest. And every single time when we got somebody, those people were like the most chill people I'd ever met in the game. Every single time. No idea what caused that to happen, but they were just super relaxed. And we would wipe and wipe and wipe, and they'd be like, yeah, it's no big deal. You know, just do this thing. And I'm like, okay. Then they stuck with us for like the whole timer, basically, until the timer ran out.
That's pretty cool. But I mean, like, I'm kind of not surprised because, like, although there's like hardcore raiders out there, it doesn't seem, especially if like somebody who's cleared the fight, like, joins knowing that it's like a learning party. It makes sense that they would probably be chill if they're willing to help.
Yeah, I don't know, because I've done party finders for like the Unreal trials instead, for the weeklies, and had a very opposite experience with those where it was like, well, I'm trying to get this, and you know, if we don't clear within like the first 2 pools, I'm just gonna like disband and blame everybody else and get angry.
Yeah.
I had very opposite experiences with that, and I've heard also very opposite experiences with people that do savage raiding, even though I really don't. So for the longest time in my head, I was just like, well, that would be nightmare. Like, I wouldn't want to do that. But then we did it with Uwu, and it was a surprisingly chill experience. So I don't know. It's kind of nice knowing that you can just sort of do that at any point in time.
I feel like the toxicity that some people bring, it's very like rare. Like, very rarely do I see somebody being toxic, unless it's like me, for instance. Like, sometimes I'll be the toxic person. Like, one of the things, I haven't done it in like 2 years, but one of the things I used to do was if a DPS was like trying to rush a dungeon, like they were running ahead of me and they were like trying to pull everything,
Yeah.
I would just stop, and then I would just like if I was tanking, I would just like let them die. And then I'd be like, "Oops, my controller disconnected," or something like that.
Have you
And
ever
then
run a dungeon with Rothy?
no.
Okay. Continue. I'll let you finish.
But like the only other thing that I do, which I do frequently, is I don't really consider it toxic,
Mhm.
but it's like you get a sprout or you get a tank, like your co-tank.
Yeah.
You get one that has like lower HP than you.
Yeah.
Like that is my it's like a sign for me. Like I'm the tank. I am
Right.
the one main tanking this.
Yeah.
And like there's been so many times cuz like she and I always laugh because like when there's a sprout and they're new to like a trial or something, they
Mhm.
usually don't know how to like play their jobs yet. And so they just spam everything and like they always spam provoke. And so
Yes.
we kind of have this like joke where it's like wait for the first provoke and then I'll do it right after them. And so it's just this back and forth like they provoke, I instantly provoke back and it's
Yeah.
just like that's the only thing I do. I don't really be toxic like but if it's like their first time and they don't know what they're doing, I'm like this is my job right now.
Right. Right. Um, the the thing I asked about before about whether or not you've run a dungeon with Rothy is because he does that, where he goes as DPS, usually as like a machinist or something, and then he'll run ahead and he'll pull things.
Oh
And
my god.
and I am the same way that you are. If that happens to me, I was like, okay, well, that's yours now. like, like, all right,
Oh,
you get to deal with that.
you feel like tanking? Oh, please
Yeah,
do.
yeah. I'm like, you can wait the extra half a second for me to get there with my sword and shield. Like, it's fine. Um, the other part you mentioned about if you get in there and you have more health than the tank does, I have a picture somewhere on Discord here. I'll have to find it. That I uploaded back when Shadowbringers was the newest expansion, and we were still doing like the first tier of Eden raids. And I was a samurai, and I had 10,000 more health. This was before the number crunch. I had 10,000 more health than the closest tank to me. And
Dang.
I was like, all right, well, this is a bad sign. Um, and I did end up tanking for a while, actually, because they died. Um, but yeah, I always take that as a sign like, oh, this is gonna be bad. Because how far behind in gear do you have to be for the DPS to have more health than you? It's pretty far.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
Yeah, and then the provoke just being part of their normal rotation is also a thing with newbie tanks. But there's also like a point where I feel like you shouldn't see it anymore because by the time you're like level 80, you should know by now that provoke is not just a part of your rotation. Like it's not. You don't go 1, 2, 3 provoke and then just provoke on cooldown every time. At some
Yeah,
point, you have to learn.
there was a tank today, we were doing the Asphodelos raids, and
Hmm.
he had lower HP than me, and I was like, "Whatever." He turned on his tank stance. I was like, "Okay, he's first.
Yeah.
He did it first, so I'll let him tank."
Right.
And he goes and he pulls the boss, and he just faces them east.
Yes.
And I was like, "Huh." And then one person was like, "So we're not centering the boss?" And then I like right before they said that, I had asked him like, "Can you face the boss north?" And he didn't say anything. He didn't do
Yeah.
anything. And so I was like, "Okay, I'm provoking." And then I just provoked and I did the rest of the fight like facing the boss the right way.
Right.
But like that was more of just me like making it easier for the poor melee DPS. Like
Right.
I wasn't like trying to be mean. But
Right.
I've always wanted to like make a video about like the unspoken rules that I follow in Final Fantasy.
There are a
Like
fair amount of them. Yeah. Yeah.
like I don't really like I'm not too much of a stickler when it comes to things, but I have like my few rules that I follow and I don't always follow them. but for the most part, it's like I would consider it like the unspoken etiquette.
I mean, that might be something to make a worthwhile video over, honestly, because there are some things. One of the things that came to mind with me with the provoke rotation for the tanks is that if you don't face certain bosses in certain directions and they have one of those attacks that like attacks one entire side of them, like the whole arena on that side, and they've got that boss facing diagonal,
Yeah, exactly.
and people aren't paying attention and they're used to it just being facing straight north, they're gonna get cleaved by that and they're gonna die, and then we're gonna have to restart. And
That's what happened today.
yeah, yeah, that's specifically what I was thinking about. I was actually thinking of the raid series you're talking about and the final one in that raid series, um, where she just can cleave like the whole side, and if you get hit by
Oh
that,
yeah.
that hurts. Um, and then the fact that it's like a multi-stage one, where it's like one whole side, another whole side, another whole side. You know, it's a 3 in a row.
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
so yeah, that can end up really bad really fast. Um, and I can understand like newbie tanks not understanding that if it was still like level 50 or 60 content. But by that point, they're level 90.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, if you haven't paid close enough attention yet to get that, maybe you should let somebody else be the main tank.
For reference,
Mhm.
for reference, okay? It wasn't until Shadowbringer. So A Realm Reborn, Heaven's Ward, Stormblood,
Mhm.
like all of those expansions, like if I was in a dungeon, I would do small pulls, and I swear to God, I would use every single cooldown I had.
Yeah.
Like before I was like the worst tank in the world. Like people hated doing dungeons with me. I got so many people like chewing me out, and I just had no idea what they were talking about.
Right.
And then in Shadowbringers, I actually like learned how to play the game,
Right.
but I don't know how I made it through everything else. Like not being a good tank.
Well, it was also a different experience before like Shadowbringers and stuff too, though, because when like in the early days, we talked about this last time. You joined the game in like patch 2.1 or something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then I think I was like patch 2.2, so we started kind of close to the same time. Um, we didn't have tank stances. We just had enmity generating skills
Yeah.
like flash for
Oh
paladin.
my God. Give
Right.
me flashbacks.
Right.
I want to flash like 6 times in a row.
But see, the thing about that was that because it was like that, I didn't want to learn a tank. So I stuck with Dragoon, a DPS role that if I pulled enmity away from the tank, it still had armor, and I still had stuff like Keen Flurry, which increased my parry rate to give me more defense. So that if I did pull away from the tank, something, I could survive still. But I didn't want the responsibility of trying to manage all the enmity for all the enemies, because I didn't trust myself with that. Once they introduced tank stances and just all your skills generated hate, basically, um, it was way easier, and I actually learned how to tank at that point.
I
So
think I
yeah,
think the only thing that was really like weird when they first introduced tank stance,
mm.
because that was in Heaven's Ward, right?
I don't remember when they
I feel
introduced tank
because
stances.
I feel like they did it in Heaven's Ward because every tank had a tank stance and a DPS stance.
I thought it was later. I thought it was like Stormblood, but I could be wrong because I didn't play tanks until until that point.
I'm pretty sure that was in Heaven's Ward.
Okay.
But it wasn't like the tank stance in like Shadowbringers where it was
Mm.
like you turn it on, you're instantly tanking.
Right.
So like with Pictomancer being in the game, I'm having trauma flashbacks from
Right.
Heaven's Ward with black mages. I would
Yeah.
get so stressed out because I would be tanking and then there would be a black mage and I'm like, here we go. And they would just pull everything off of you and then they
Yeah.
would die. And Pictomancer is like, it's like right there. There's
Picto's
like,
insane.
I
Yeah.
was doing maps with Chi and she was playing Pictomancer and I would like AoE the mobs and then she would do something and everything would just start running to her.
Yep.
And of course she would just laugh and she's like, "They're mine now." And I'm like, "Oh, give them back."
It's it's really easy to do with Picto. You don't even have to know how to properly play Pictomancer, and you can still pull mobs away from the tank at the beginning. Like,
Yeah.
it is insanely easy. They have insane burst damage. I am jealous of the damage numbers they can do, and that's coming from someone that mains Samurai. Like, it's it's rough. It's a great, like, I don't know what you feel about the class. I actually kind of enjoy playing Pictomancer just because it's really easy to do and see big numbers pop up. But
For me,
hmm,
I like the concept of Pictomancer.
hmm,
I think it's a cool job and I think it's a great job, but I don't think it's a me. That's like my take. Like if somebody enjoys Pictomancer, that's
hmm.
awesome. That's like super cool, but not for me.
So I like the numbers that it puts out, and I like how easy it is to play. I don't like the aesthetic. I will say that. Like, it's not my aesthetic. It's not my style of like attacks and stuff like that. Um, I'm obviously I'm a samurai main. Like, that's always going to be my main class unless they absolutely butcher it. Um, by the same token, like, I like Viper. Like, Viper's much more my style of aesthetic, but I don't like Viper's gameplay as much.
I really liked Viper.
Hmm.
I think the jobs that impressed me the most, like melee wise,
Hmm.
like I had a lot of fun with Monk, which is the first time I think I've ever said that. And I really liked Dragoon this expansion. Like
Yeah.
Dragoon was like, because they reworked Dragoon,
Yeah.
and I've always, I don't want to say hated, but I've never liked the job. So I played Dragoon and I was like, oh my God, this job is great. Like it's super fun now.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of fun with those, but not to like be mean, but Samurai is my least favorite melee.
That's okay because I understand it right now. I I liked Dragoon going into uh, through Shadowbringers. I really liked Dragoon. Endwalker came around, and I didn't like playing Dragoon anymore. Uh, Dawn Trail has fixed a lot of my problems with Dragoon. I have not given Monk another chance yet. I need to actually go through and learn how to play Monk because all the way up through Endwalker, I hated Monk. Like, it was probably my bottom DPS class as far as it was tied with Black Mage for me as far as my
Oh,
least favorite.
yes, a fellow Black Mage hater.
I fucking hate Black Mage.
Finally, finally,
I
somebody
don't
has the same take.
I don't understand how people can play Black Mage. I tried so hard to understand it because in theory I should like it. Like, cool, giant explosions, big damage numbers. Yes, it felt so slow. And it every 10 minute or like every 10 levels your rotation would change, and like your optimal rotation is different now, and it's completely different than the 10 levels before. You have to relearn it. And then you have sync content, and you're like, well, depending on what level you sync to, it could be different rotations. Just keep them all in your head at all times. And I'm like, I'm not built for this. I can't.
Yeah, when I was leveling, she's always like, "I love Black,"
Oh yeah.
and I was like, "I'm too stupid to play Black Mage."
I don't
Like
have
that's
the memory for Black Mage.
exactly. Like their rotation is a book. So,
Yeah, it
and
is.
I'm not willing to read it. I told her I was like, I'm just gonna be really bad and do everything really bad. And I was like, I'm not gonna care. Like I'm gonna let everybody else carry me in
Yeah.
everything we do while I level.
I I tried. Like, I tried my hardest at Black Mage to, because every time, even if I don't like the class, I'm trying to do good just because I don't want things to take longer than they should.
Yeah.
Um, because I don't want to be the person that's bringing down the party and being like, well, this boss took an extra 3 minutes because you don't know your rotation. And I'm trying and I'm trying, and I think I'm doing good. And then I look at the enemy list, and like someone who's, I don't know, a monk is outdoing me, and I'm like, okay, well, or I end up in like the middle of a pack if it's like an eight person party for like a raid or trial or something, and I'm like, okay, well that's not normal for me. Like I'm doing something wrong, and I couldn't tell you what. And I look at like the rotation sheet, and I'm like, ah.
This is what's wrong. I see.
I see it for like a second, and then I go into the content, and I'm like, how the fuck am I supposed to? Where? And now I have to move in the middle of my cast.
Exactly. Look,
Yeah.
Black Mage is just not a job for me.
No.
But for the most part, I like almost all of the jobs in the game. Like,
yeah,
they're all fun and unique, and that's like that's some of the beauty of like the job system in this game is that, oh, if you don't like the job, play something else.
Yeah, that is one of the really good parts about this game. I can understand right now, like you said, the samurai is probably your least favorite of the melee DPS, because it was a lot of fun in Shadowbringers, and that's when I fell in love with it. And Endwalker kind of gutted it a little bit, made it a lot more boring, and then Dawn Trail just sort of continued with that. We didn't really get anything new, hardly.
You got the saddest front flip in the world.
Yeah, we got a sad little front flip. They actually changed one of our animations for one of our skills recently.
Really?
Yeah, they did. They reworked it. They didn't change what effect it does. It just has a different looking skill. But they basically just added like a couple of fancy new flips, and your overall rotation didn't change, like at all.
Huh.
Which on one hand, like I said, I have a shitty memory, so this has been built into my mind for the past 2 expansions. What my rotation is, so I'm not messing it up at any point, but it does make it pretty boring.
That's I think the thing about Samurai for me is that, like, it's the caster, man.
Kind of, yeah.
So if I wanted to play a caster, why don't I play a caster?
It's weird now because every time you use one of your main cast skills, basically, you get a second insta-cast one for free.
Yeah.
Which does make it feel better. I will say that. It makes it feel more active, but I'm still not hitting as hard as I used to in the old expansions, and that feels kind of bad. Because
you're missing out on the kinky gauge.
Yeah,
or the kinky skill.
I'm missing. I'm missing out on the chitin. That's what I'm missing out on.
Oh, that's what it's called.
Yeah, it's called chitin. Yeah, I'm missing out on that. I miss my chitin every day. They took it away from me. They abducted my baby, and they're not giving it back. But I missed that because it did. Even though all it did was boost your weapon skill power by like 50%, like it gave you something to do in between there. It flowed nicely into the other skills and made it look better. And that was like half the job anyway. I don't have any party buffs that I bring to anybody as a class, so I have to be one of the hardest hitting ones, and we haven't been this expansion, which also feels bad. But as far as like the other thing you mentioned about all, like you can just switch to whatever job and they all have their own special thing. I agree with that. The only one that I can't really have any input on is Scholar, because I never actually played Scholar in the PvE environment. I have played Scholar as PvP, and they recently reworked that because that was broken as hell. I don't know.
Scholar,
did you ever play Scholar in PvP?
I don't do PvP.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
No.
To give you an idea about what that would be like, let's say that on average, as like a samurai in front lines, 72 people, you might do like 800,000 damage per round, right, as a samurai. As Scholar, what you would do is you would put a dot on an enemy, and you had another skill that spread that dot to every enemy within a certain radius. At the end of a match in PvP on front lines before, I've done 2.5 million damage to the enemy team.
Holy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So they had to rework that. They nerfed that.
Not surprised.
Yeah.
Scholar really impressed me, actually. Like, I really like the level 100 skill or whatever. I think it's called Seraphism.
Yeah.
Where you like turn into an angel.
Yeah.
I was like, that looks pretty cool. And then I played Scholar, and I was like, oh my god, this job feels great. That was like one of like the top jobs that impressed me this expansion.
That skill is also something they added to the PvP mode, and it's cool there too. It turns your main attack into an instacast and has like splashing AoE damage, I believe.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, PvP, like, just not interested in PvP at all, or just like is too intimidating to get into, or just you don't feel like the rewards are worth it, or
The rewards are cool, like
yeah.
limited time mounts,
Hmm.
limited time gear. I think it's cool, but I just don't have it in me to like do that grind. I
Okay.
could probably do every other grind in the game, but for some reason, I'm not like a very competitive. So like competing against other people, like the times I've done PvP, I'm just
Hmm.
like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just gonna attack people, and people are like, attack the crystals.
Yeah. It's I get that. Um, the PvP, at least the frontline mode of PvP, like the one you get your daily XP bonus through anyway, that one is very unserious. Um, most of the people I feel like that are playing frontlines have no idea what's going on, so you're not by yourself as far as that goes. And you can get by doing just like your daily frontline roulette for the entire time that the PvP season rewards are like their little, I don't know what they call it, their PvP series. I'm gonna call it the season pass, whatever. You know what I'm talking about, where you go up
Series
the
Malmstone.
there you go, series milestones. The whole time that's going on, if you just do like your daily frontlines each day and just do like one match a day, you'll get every reward in there. Like it's kind of designed around that.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's and you can just do that one match. It'll take like 15 minutes out of your day. Um, Nobody like people get tilted in front lines, and I don't understand that. There are occasionally people that will get like mad about it, but it's like the most unserious game mode that they could ever have for PvP because there's literally 72 people. How are you going to get anything done with like 72 people on a map? as soon as
True.
as soon as like more than 4 people, target you, you're dead. So like what are you going to do? Um it's you just ignore those people because they don't have any say in anything anyway. What's going to happen is going to happen regardless. And then you got
Yeah.
your XP and then you're gone.
When Crystalline Conflict came
mm,
out, I really enjoyed that for a little bit. Like I
yeah.
played that a lot. Like I think it was like the first series Malmstones that came out,
Yeah.
and I went ham. It was like I just played match after match after match. And I think that's why I'm like not into that anymore is
Yeah.
because I just did it way too much.
I can get that too. I mean, I got really into it when it was brand new too. I think the first like 3 ranking seasons that they had, where they had like actual ranked, modes that we could still do here at Crystal. Um, I did ranked every time, and just to get like I just made sure to get up to gold so that I get like the gold portrait frames because that's all I wanted.
Yeah.
And some seasons that was really easy, and then some it was like really hard because you would get people that would AFK on your team, and I was like, okay, cool. I burnt myself out on that too after the first 3 seasons. Then I didn't do Crystalline Conflict for a while after that, which is still there. I mean, you can still do that. They've probably introduced a few new maps to CC since the last time you played, if you haven't really touched it since then.
Yeah, I thought about it because
Mm,
I like the new like outfit in this
yeah,
season.
yeah. Yeah, it's worth it to get the outfits and stuff. I mean, the outfits and the mounts, even sometimes just the portrait frames are okay. Um, or just getting those trophy crystals to trade for other things. I've got
Yeah.
so many PvP rewards just sitting in my inventory, different. I'm weird though because I actually like the PvP in this game. I know a lot of people don't, but I liked it before the rework, and I like it after the rework, so I'm in like a very small minority. I used to do Frontlines all the time before the rework, and I would just play Gunbreaker because in Frontlines, Gunbreaker couldn't die. They could heal themselves. They were one of the only tanks that really could. So, and they took severely reduced damage, so I would just stand there on points with like 10 people attacking me and then just run away, and then they couldn't do anything about it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, he was broken. Um, but so you mentioned before as far as like Dawn Trail and your rating scene and all that stuff that you haven't done Savage rating this tier. So, but you've been watching the ultimates that are going on right now. People attempting those.
Yes, I have.
Hmm. Any
When
hmm,
when DSR came out,
hmm.
I watched like so many streamers
That was
like
the time.
frogging
Yeah,
that, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is so cool." And now I just kind of pop in and
yeah.
I see what's going on. Like, "Oh, what's your PB so far in Fru?" And they're like, 61% on phase 3." And I'm like, "Nah." So like I'm waiting for somebody to hit phase 4 now.
Yeah, the DSR one, that was the time to get in and really like watch people doing those attempts, because that was a whole, I don't know, things felt really different then. Like there was a whole story aspect to it, and it was so kind of mysterious with the way that that thing worked,
Yeah.
and how it could just reset on you if you didn't do things right. And you didn't know what you did wrong, and it was a mystery that they were trying to figure out what you had to do. It was something. It was a whole event. I have
Yeah,
not yet
DSR
watched
was
this
really
one.
cool.
Yeah,
Fru looks very difficult.
yeah,
I mean, it is an ultimate, go figure.
yeah,
But, uh, some of the mechanics are very similar to, like, Savage, but then some of them are, like, super crazy looking. Like, I remember I did not that long ago, I did which one was it? It was, E12. Wait, is that right? Yeah. Yeah, E12. Did the Savage version of that, and, we did it with 4 people, and that was crazy. Like, the teleporting shenanigans and all that stuff.
yeah.
I I could not comprehend. We just came up with a strat where at one point, everybody would stand apart, and then we would just let both of the tanks like, me I think she and I were tanking. We would just die and get rezzed because it was easier than trying to learn the mechanics.
Right,
But we
right.
did it, and I got the mount, and I got the weapon, and I was like, "Never again."
I think that's how we dealt with the Hello World mechanic,
Yeah.
in the Scapes too. When we did that on Saint, is that we couldn't figure out
Yes.
the mechanics, and so just everybody but like 2 people died at one point.
Yep, that strat is called Goodbye World.
Yep, yep,
When we were doing that recently with the FC, I told everybody, I was like, "When Hello World comes up, everybody just kill yourselves except for, like, the 2 tanks and the healer. Like,
yeah.
everybody just jump." And they were
Yeah.
like, "What?" And I was like, "Trust me, just do it." But it goes so fast now that
Yeah.
you can kill the boss.
Yeah, that's what I figure, is that it's probably just killable now before you even have to worry about that. Um, but yeah, the E12 one I haven't even done yet, honestly. Like I need to get in there and actually do that. But
The mount is super cool.
yeah.
So,
Yeah,
that
I
was,
want to
like,
go
the
back
big
and do
thing for
those.
me. Oh, maybe we could set up an FC event.
Yeah, we should actually, honestly. I was looking for stuff to do anyway. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, that actually kind of touches on what I was going to ask. Like, what is your plans for Dawn Trail right now? Now that you've got through that and you haven't done Savages or anything yet, like, what are you doing to keep yourself entertained, basically?
Well, I'm in a weird spot
Mm-hmm.
because I usually commit to, like, a big grind,
Mm-hmm.
but I really don't have anything that I want to do right now. So it's kinda like I'm at this point where I log in and I'm like, "Oh, I need to cap on tomes." And
Yeah,
then once I cap on tomes, I'm like, "I'm done. I don't need to play until weekly reset." Well, the Allied Society stuff
yeah.
keeps me logging in daily, um, but yeah, other than that, I think I did the leveling grind a little too fast.
Yeah, I was kind of worried about that because with me not being as invested in the story of Dawn Trail as I was with all the prior expansions, I was worried I was going to get burnt out too because I was kind of feeling the burnout on like Endwalker with the patch content being kind of slow.
Yeah.
Um, and so like I've been trying to pace myself so I still have things to level up. But I'm also in a weird spot where like I don't have a lot of big grinds to do either. So I'm trying to find something, and my thing has been trying to do the solo Heaven on High or like solo Palace of the Dead again, trying to get back into that.
Ah,
But the problem I've had is that twice now, within the past month, I've been in that and my computer's crashed.
nice.
In the middle of my run. At one point in time, it froze up for about 3 minutes, and then when I came back, it had disconnected my internet, and so it popped me out. I was on like floor, I don't know, 67 or something like that. So it'd been a few hours into the run. That upset me, and then the other time, the computer just straight up like blue screen on me, and I think I've got it fixed now. I think I found the problem, and it was really weird. But I'm so scared now to go back in there.
You just gotta give it another go and see what
I
happens.
know, but girl, it's like, 4 hours in there, I'm gonna be at like floor 75, and then it's gonna be like beep, and then it's gonna crash on me again, and then I'm gonna
Yeah,
be super pissed.
it's just a weird spot in Final Fantasy. Like,
Yeah,
I remember when they pushed they're like, "Oh, we're gonna push updates to like every 4 months,"
yeah,
something like that. And for me, at first I was like, "Yeah, that totally makes sense." Like, devs are always working hard,
right.
whatever. But now it kind of feels like we go into a content drought.
We do.
Like every time between like patches.
Yeah,
And so I just don't have much to keep me like logging back in. I did consider head nod for Dawn Trail.
you're gonna go back through and count the head nods again.
Maybe. Also, that was something we didn't talk about in the last interview because
Thought
I
we
was
did.
working on it. We like mentioned that I was working on a project. We
Uh,
didn't I don't think we said exactly what I was doing.
okay.
Or maybe we did and I just didn't say the number I was.
No, you definitely didn't say the number. I think we talked about it, but we didn't say what the number was because you were still working on making the video, which is out now.
The video
Um,
is out
yeah,
and
which I will link to in the description of this video too, if anybody wants to see it.
it's super short and it caused a lot of controversy because they wanted a compilation of every single head nod. And I was like, "You know how many hours of editing
No,
that would
that is
take?"
an unfair ask on their part. That is not. No, nobody should take that upon themselves to actually record every single head nod. That that video would be like 10 hours long.
It would be insanely long. Plus, I use, instant replay from, like, NVIDIA,
Oh yeah.
so it's, like, 2-minute clips. So I have to, like, trim down a million 2-minute clips. Like, no way. But people
Yeah.
were also like, "Oh, you should have counted how many times the Warrior of Light had nodded, how many
Oh
times this
no.
NPC had nodded."
That's easy for
And
them to say, right?
so I really thought about with Dawn Trail, like, doing almost exactly what everybody was, like, getting upset about, like, making a long head nod compilation with all the stats separated between head nods between this and that, and, like, what kind of head nods? Because there's, like, different head nods.
Oh no, you're gonna break down the head nod by genus.
I really thought about it, and I'm still considering it, like, it'd be kinda fun, but I think it's still too fresh to really do it right now,
Yeah,
and somebody could beat me to the punch, like,
they
somebody could
could.
totally go ahead
Although there may
and,
not
like,
be
do it.
anybody else out there that really wants to do that. I'm gonna be honest with you. Um, I it's it's interesting that they have those ideas, be like, oh, you should do this, you should do that, because they themselves are never going to do that. Like, they want to see it, but the amount of effort that it would take to actually get that information, and then on top of that, put it all on camera, like put it all in the video together, is not worth the payoff. Like, you would spend an extra 200 hours just throwing all that stuff together and then rendering it, and then be a 10-hour long video with every single head nod on there, with like a counter going up every time there's a head nod. Like,
And
that's
who's gonna watch that
right.
video also?
Nobody. That's the thing. Your video was more concise. It was in a more digestible format. It was shorter. If you put out a 10-hour video of like every head nod from A Realm Reborn to Endwalker, nobody's gonna watch that 10-hour video just to keep
No.
seeing head nods. Like, people that watch the videos are sometimes the worst people to get advice from about the videos that they want to see.
My goal was to just I wanted to put the information
Right.
out there, and I wanted to make it short, sweet, and to the point. Like,
Right.
I get so tired of like, this is a clickbait title, and you go to
Oh,
the
yeah.
video and they just go on and on.
Oh yeah.
I was like, 2-minute video, here you go, everybody. Like,
I went to count every head nod from A Realm Reborn to Endwalker, and you won't believe what I found. Red arrow on the screen, red circle in nowhere on the thumbnail.
let's talk about everything but the head nods
Yeah.
until the 10-minute mark.
What
at the
is
end of
head
the video.
nodding? So head nodding is the action of
Exactly. Like, I don't need to break down the science. Final Fantasy players know what I'm talking about.
Right. Right.
So,
I saw a channel today that I used to watch all the time, because they used to just put up like streamer compilation clips, right? It's the Lulu channel, the Fashionista channel. And they've turned into like one of those other like clickbait channels, basically. Which is sad to see. But I was like, I looked at that and I'm like, I know they do it because it works. Like, I know it drives engagement, but it just feels so shitty. Like,
yeah.
it just feels so disingenuous. It's like, oh, we need to talk about the problem with this. I looked into this and you won't believe what I found. Like, it's ridiculous. I don't care about all that.
I'm not a content creator by any means. Like,
Yeah.
for the most part, the content that I make is for me.
Right.
Like, I make a video because I want a video. And
Right.
I think it's a fun project. I love editing. Like, that's my like bread and butter. But I have been interested in making like a clickbaity video, but like actually like going into it. And what I would call it, and somebody can steal this idea and I don't care, but the title would be, you should quit playing your favorite game.
Okay.
And the reason why I would make this video is because I used to play Dead by Daylight a lot.
Yeah.
And there are so many people, especially streamers, who play Dead by Daylight and they are miserable. They have like 10,000 hours in the game and they're just repeatedly putting out content, and the game is just in a really bad spot, in my opinion.
Right.
Like, it's better than it was in the beginning, but it's really bad. Like, the devs don't listen to anybody. I don't need to go into it. But, like, you hear people talk about this all the time. Like, oh, I guess I'll just go play League of Legends. And they're like, they're unhappy. Or I'm going to go play Overwatch. And they're unhappy. Well, why are they doing it? Because they're, like, baiting you in with the battle pass. Oh, this exclusive stuff. Like, game developers are so scummy these days, so it's like,
no, they time gate everything, or they make it so that you get this trickle of rewards but you get a bonus. If you do like 3 matches that day, you get a bonus. That's the League of Legends thing, right? Like, oh, your first win of the day and stuff like that. I remember that from my time with League, and it was the same thing with me. Like, I would play League every day because my friends were playing League. I didn't even like League that much, but we had to keep playing until we got our first win of the day. We just needed to get that bonus so we could unlock our new champion, so I could keep playing this game that I didn't like. With Dead by Daylight, that one honestly surprised me a little bit because I own it, And I've owned it since it basically came out. Friend got it for me, and we played maybe 2 hours. And I said, okay, well, this is kind of an interesting idea. I can see where they're going with it. It's kind of fun. Maybe I'll play it again later. I never would have imagined that was a game that people would strategize the fun out of. But they
Yeah.
do. Like, I have people on my Steam friends list right now that have like 2,000 hours in Dead by Daylight. And they have all these like macro and micro strategies on what to do. And I'm just like, you're not really enjoying the game at this point. You've basically done speedrunner tactics essentially and just sucked all the joy out of it.
Yeah, like get in, get out, and win.
Right.
Like that's it.
Right, you're just
And
doing a
like
win at all costs thing and you're not having fun. Like
for me, I have 809 hours in Dead.
yeah.
And I thought about like, what if I start making content? And so I did. I started making like videos about like my favorite builds for certain killers.
Yeah.
And then I was just at a point where I didn't want to touch it.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to keep doing this. And then I made a video recently about how I played through my backlog on Steam. And it's not like me explaining anything. It's literally just a video with 2-second clips from every game. And every game that I played. And I realized like there's something amazing about just picking up a game and playing it, and if you don't like it, that's fine, and then like not committing all your time to one game.
Yes.
Because when I was a kid, I remember, oh, okay, at my grandma's house, she had these Super Nintendo games.
Right.
And then at my aunt's house, she had these different games, and my friend had these ones. And so depending on where you went, you would play a little bit and then switch cartridges and play something else.
Right.
It was never like I've got to play this game for 10,000 hours. I say as I played Final Fantasy for
right.
Probably over 10,000 hours.
Yeah.
But yeah, like going through and playing my backlog was kind of like an eye opener. Like, stop playing the games you don't enjoy because you think you have nothing.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
you can find something fun to play. And I found a lot of cool games, like, out of just playing my backlog. Like, games I've gotten from, like, Humble Bundle. Like,
Yeah.
they give you, like, 8 games every month.
Yeah.
You subscribe to it, and a lot of those games I never even touched, so my Steam library is
it's funny you mentioned Humble Bundle because I recently went through my backlog of Humble Bundle keys just to see which ones I hadn't actually redeemed yet, and there were a bunch of them that I didn't even know I owned that I went through and redeemed. I think I have about 35 emails sitting in my email where Steam has just notified me, hey, you activated this game. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I'd been subscribed to it for probably 10 years or something. And I would occasionally pause my subscription like I'm doing right now, but most of the time I just let it run. And so there were a lot of unclaimed games.
Yeah, what I do now is I see like, oh, is there any game that I'm interested in? And even if there's like one game, I'll still get it. But then I just give the keys away to people.
I used to do that too, yeah.
Because like most of my friends are in Brazil, and sometimes with Humble Bundle you can't give keys to people in Brazil.
Sometimes.
So I usually just end up giving them to my brother, like the ones that I can't give to my closest friends. Yeah, my brother. I'm like, here you go.
Brazil's kind of expensive to get video games in for them.
It is.
So, yeah, I learned that by talking to Mimi. That their wages do not match like the cost of their games down there. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, like I got Chi her Christmas present early because I do that every year. I get paid, and then at the end of the month, and then so it's like, oh, it's the end of November. I got paid, so I'm gonna get you your Christmas presents now. And so I was like, find some games you want, and then I'll just send you Steam gift cards because it was cheaper to send a Steam gift card and have the currency
Yeah, then
like
have it converted.
exchange. Yeah, converted. There we go.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, like games are really expensive in Brazil, which is like super.
Yeah, yeah, it's really weird. And then the other thing you mentioned about how like as a kid you would go to like a relative's house or something, they'd have certain video games and stuff like that. I had that same experience, like obviously, because we're about the same age, and um, for me it was my cousin. My cousin had like an NES with like Mike Tyson's Punch Out and Contra and like Super C and stuff like that. So I'd go over there and I'd switch out those and play those, and because I didn't have those at home, I didn't have any of those at home, and then I get home, and then that would be when I would spend all my time on like one or two games because I didn't always have a huge backlog of games. Then I had like a few, whatever they could afford to have. So, then I'd be playing the games because I only had those. Um, but this game here by far has to be the one that I have spent the most amount of time in my entire life. Final
Same.
Fantasy 14. Like, I probably have 7,000 hours or something in it if I looked at my actual playtime. Actually, what does
My
playtime say?
playtime is 468 days, 6 hours, and 21 minutes.
Yeah, you got me beat on this character at least. Although this is the newer character. This is 374 days, 1 hour, and 2 minutes. But this was also my second character.
Second character.
Second character, yeah. My original didn't have as much playtime, but it started like 11 years ago. I think they only have maybe 100 days of playtime on that one. So, but yeah, it's what you said's right. Like you should not solely play a game just because you feel obligated to, because at that point you're not having fun. That's what happened to me with League. That's what happened to some of my friends with Overwatch. That's what I feel like is happening with people with Dead by Daylight. And then to kind of the same degree, Rainbow Six Siege also kind of did that to me.
Yeah.
Because I love Siege, but the fact that they kept coming out with new operators and I didn't want to pay more money for them and tried to earn them through free credits was rough. Because they don't give you very many free credits per match. They're really stingy about that. And
Yeah, so like that's like really the only like the clickbaity thing I would make. But my problem is that like I'm very into the English language. Like I used to read the dictionary for fun because I write poetry. I've been writing poetry for 26 years, or no, 23 years.
Okay.
And I have like hundreds of poems. And when I was a kid, I actually like didn't learn how to read until like it was way too late. I had to take like special reading classes and all kinds of weird stuff.
Okay.
But my problem is that when it comes to like the essay format,
Yeah.
I cannot do that. I am not the kind of person, because it's like the essay format, you have to go into these deep explanation
Right.
things. For me, I'm just like, why can't I just say it? Like, stop playing your game, it sucks and you're unhappy. Like, nobody's gonna care if you say that, but if you explain it, then they might listen.
Right.
So it's like, that's the only thing stopping me from making the video is grit.
Yeah, you have to close the loopholes, you have to explain your thought process, you have to work it out in kind of a step-by-step format so they can follow along and they can be convinced by the argument. I get that. For me, like I can do, like, I can write poetry and stuff. I was actually very good at that in school. I just never had the drive to actually do it outside of assignments. I learned how to read really early. Like by the time I was in kindergarten, I was already reading at like a fourth grade level. But to be honest with you, it was mostly because of video games. And
That's crazy.
it's because, while, like I said, my cousin had stuff like Contra and Mike Tyson's Punch-Out and stuff. At home, I had Dragon Warrior, or Dragon Quest as we know it now, which was heavily text-based. And not only heavily text-based, but it was written in Old English. They used a lot of thous and thys and stuff like that. And then my cousin that lived across the road from me that I could go see all the time, he had Final Fantasy II at the time, but Final Fantasy IV on Super Nintendo. That was more easily digestible. That was a very simpler English text format. And I played those all the time. So I had to learn how to read like really well, because as a 4-year-old or 5-year-old reading but thou must, and I'm like, what's thou?
Oh, that's pretty cool though.
Yeah,
like I've heard a lot of stories about people like learning language games.
Yeah,
That's cool.
It was especially because of Dragon Warrior, because when you did attacks and stuff, it wasn't just like animation plays and then like a number pops up on the monster. It was like, so and so attacks the slime. The slime takes 5 damage. The slime has been defeated. Like, it would say that out in text. And so you had to read to even tell what the hell was going on. So I learned to read really well, but solely because of video games. And so that inspired my I guess that inspired my mind to learn how to read better. But outside of that context, like I could do poetry, but I just don't have the drive for it. And like if I set my mind to it, I can do that. I can do essay format all day long. Like if you want to get an essay put out, like I can do that. That's pretty easy for me.
I'll hire you. I'll give you 20% of the cut. I'll monetize
it. That's it. We've got it. We've got it. We've got the formula down.
I don't think I'd ever monetize anything. I hate the idea of monetizing.
I would absolutely monetize stuff. I'll be honest with you. Like if I could ever make it to a point where I can just make videos and do stuff that I want to do in like a creative format and get paid for it without having a 9-to-5 job, hell yeah, I'm gonna do that. Like I would love. It'll never work out like that, and I know that. But I would absolutely take that. Just have the freedom to work on what I want, when I want to, whatever it wants to be about, and then get paid for it. Not have to worry about, oh, I'm going to work my 10-hour shift in my job today, hope my sales don't suck, and so I don't get bonus or something like that. Hell yeah. No, I do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, to each their own. Like,
yeah.
For me, like, I hate ads. That's
it. Yeah. I was about to say, like, I don't want to be the one to stand there and being like, well, this is brought to you today by our sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends. Now, Raid Shadow Legends... I don't want to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
yeah.
I don't want to have to, like, make people suffer. Like I said, I like making things, like, to the point.
Yeah.
Like, really fast. So, because time is precious for everybody.
It is, yeah.
So, I would rather give people the freedom of their time.
Yeah.
Than to try to keep them much longer than I should.
Yeah. Speaking of which, actually.
Yeah, have fun editing this.
Yeah, this is ended up a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. And then I had the phone call in the middle of it, which I'm sorry about. That was
that's okay.
My parents called unexpectedly, and I'm like, well, maybe it's important, and it wasn't. But yeah. So to kind of wrap this up here, since we're going a little bit long, do you have any like final thoughts or final words that you want to say before we end the video? Any special messages to anybody or anything like that?
This is the spoiler warning.
Okay.
This is Dawn Trail spoiler warning, which I'm sure like 50% of the people don't care.
Right.
So, because Dawn Trail's not for everybody. But get all your jobs to level 100 so you can get this mount.
I mean, that's worth it right there, to be honest with you.
I love this thing.
That's a pretty good mount.
This is like the best thing in the world. Yeah.
You're riding Aaronville's mom.
Oh my god. No.
And that's where we're gonna end it. Thank you, everybody.
Do not get this mount. Do not.
It's too late.
Sin has cursed it.
It's too late. You're riding Aaronville's mom. No getting around it now. Bye, everybody.
Curse.